Minority MPs Wednesday walked out of the House as Parliament approved the 4 outstanding deputy ministers designate, saying they cannot be part of the process as they do not partake in their vetting. The NDC MPs have demanded another session to vet the nominees because they were in their constituencies as part of the national tree planting exercise on June 11 during the vetting of the 4. The 4 were, however, approved by the majority side after the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Joe Osewusu, presented his report.
Stated that in the consideration of these nominees, members of the minority were not present, and so the record reflects that the members of the minority were not present. Indeed, it is a request of the minority leader that the report reflects so. And so, Mr. Speaker, we put that in the report to reflect the position. But, Mr. Speaker, the records of the committee will show that members present were sufficient for purposes of quorum, and therefore we conducted a legitimate business. However, Mr. Speaker, it is open to members of the entire House to comment. What is critical is that members the nominees had demonstrated that they were qualified under the Constitution and that the publication for 14 days for members of the public to present any memoranda, talk about any reason for which any of them may not be confirmed by the House, yielded no response. That no memoranda were brought from the public, no adverse comments from the public were received, neither were any brought to the attention of the committee. The circumstances, Mr. Speaker, I think it is fair that this House approves the nomination of the 4 nominees for the appointment of Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Minority Leader James Aveji led the walkout, insisting they don't want to be part of the process.
Of the minority side on the committee did not take part in the proceedings as they were away for the tree planting exercise in their various constituencies as directed by the Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the 11th of June, which was the day these 4 nominees were vetted, was the day that the Right Honourable Speaker directed all of us to go to our constituencies to take part in the tree planting. Mr. Speaker, the chairman of the committee has not been fair to the minority side of the committee, whilst the Right Honourable Speaker directed that we should take part in the tree planting. He organized a meeting for vetting of these people. So, Mr. Speaker, we from the minority side will not be part of this debate because the chairman has not been fair to us.
Respect to your committee.
The chairman has not been fair to us. Whilst we were in our constituencies doing national assignment directed by the Right Honourable Speaker, he was organizing a meeting to vet nominees. Mr. Speaker, why should that be so? So our side will not support these 4 nominees. We will not be part of this, and I want to draw this to make this to your attention that we will not take part in the debate. We will not support these people. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. So we'll work out. When you finish, we'll come back. Thank you very much.
Majority Leader Seche Mensah-Bonsu says it is important the Speaker consults leaders before he gives directives like ordering all MPs to go and plant trees and also declaring June 11 a no-sitting day.
I'm not too sure that this is anything that should divide the House, Mr. Speaker, because what I'm gathering from the statement by the Deputy Minority Leader is a mix-up in communication. It's important that if a Speaker should make a ruling or give a directive in such regard, that he consults with the leadership of the House. I think it's important. Because the speakers don't run Parliament on their own. They should be very consultative. But, Mr. Speaker, I also think that, as I stated earlier, that this is not any matter that should divide this House. And I think it's unfortunate that there was a mix-up in communication. If maybe the Speaker had been much more consultative, we would have seen a way about it. And the Deputy Speaker, who is the chair of the committee, Speaker, I'm told, engaged some of the committee members. Not everybody was present. And unfortunately, information was not transmitted appropriately, which is how come the committee held a discussion and took the decision.
The two sides have been addressing media briefings. Joseph Opoku-Gakwa, parliamentary correspondent, joins us with more on what they have been saying. Joseph, what else have the two sides been saying at their news conferences?
Well, had addresses from both the NDC and the NPP side. Hassan Suhini leading the address by those on the NDC side, and Samuel Atachia leading the address by those on the NPP side. Mr. Suhini says they would want to see a case where the four individuals, and just to run you through the list of those four specifically, Daina Asunabadapa, who is headed to the Attorney General's office as Deputy Minister Designate at the Office of the Attorney General. Honorable Lariraba Abdul, who is Deputy Minister Designate for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Martin Ejemen Sakosa, who is Deputy Minister Designate for Local Government and Rural Development, as well as Amidu Ishiaku Chiana, who is Deputy Minister Designate for Sanitation and Water Resources. The minority MP said they would want the Speaker to order a revetting of the four individuals, because then we've seen a situation, they claim, where the chairman of the appointment committee has shown a lot of disrespect to the Speaker's directive when it comes to the indication that MP should go plant trees. He's also been disclosing some additional details that the leadership on the minority side actually went to the Speaker with a complaint that they were not part of the vetting based on his previous directive, and so they would want to pull brakes on the processes with the approval. But the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, told them that this is an issue that can be resolved on the floor when the report of the appointment committee comes to the House for the necessary approval. The interesting bit is that when the approval was being done, the second Deputy Speaker, who is also the MP for Famina, Mr. Siama, rather presided over the sitting. The Speaker, Alban Bagbin himself, wasn't in the chair. And the leadership on the NDC side, at the level of the committee, including the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, and the minority chief of Muntaka Mubarak, were all absent on the floor, and it was James Klucha Veji who led the walkout eventually. And so they are making that demand, but we've been getting responses from the majority side. Samuel Atacha thinks that the NDC MPs actually did not take their jobs seriously in terms of the need for them to show up and do the vetting, because then he makes the point that the chairman of the appointment committee himself, Joe Sewusu, was in Parliament House, led a tree planting exercise. He put brakes on the processes during the vetting and came to do tree planting and went to continue. So the NDC MPs could have done the same. And he goes on to make the point that the demand for a revetting will never happen. But the conclusion is that the House went ahead and approved the four individuals even after the NDC MPs walked out of the House earlier today.
All right, but it's curious, as you indicated, that the Speaker himself wasn't in the chair, Alban Bagbin, who had given the minority is citing as the reason they didn't show up. It will be interesting to hear what he has to say about all of that. Does he actually have a say in any of that?
Usually referring to the Speaker in terms of what the Speaker has to say in all of it. So, yes, we're waiting to see if eventually he would comment on this tomorrow morning when he occupies the seat and presides over sitting. Earlier in the morning, he presided over a bit of the sitting, and then the first deputy took over, and eventually the second deputy took over. And we can only wait and hear what he would have to say about this tomorrow, because the minority MPs are insisting that there was a bit of disrespect that was shown to him by the majority side, particularly the chairman of the appointment committee.
All right, thank you very much, our parliamentary